Okay, let's begin. So today we're going to start with the last part. Okay, we're gonna tackle important points: law, society, faith, and the final covenant, a guided journey through the concluding verses of the longest surah in the Quran, which is Surah Al Baqarah. So this part, okay, we're gonna hit 5 major themes in here. Like this final section of Surah Al Baqarah forms a comprehensive moral, legal, and theological framework for the Muslim community. And as I told you, Surah Al Baqarah came to build up the Muslim community when it was at its beginning in Medina. And building on the previous session's coverage of Qibla, fasting, pilgrimage, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them what to do exactly, we now enter the surah's the richest legislative and spiritual perspectives. And we have the first one, which is charity and social responsibility. We're going to start with this one. Here we're going to hit those verses from 215 and in 218, who deserves charity, the ethics of giving, and the reward of sacrifice. Then we're gonna go for the ethics of conflict, prohibition of intoxicants, and care for orphans as well. Then we hit the marriage, divorce, waiting periods as well in marriage, in divorce, nursing, Islam's complete family code, and then we hit stories of prophets and armies and how to react in fight as well, Ayatul Kursi, and the economics of charity, and then the last part, which is prohibition of riba, which is usury, and the longest verse of debt, and the closing dua, the last closing dua of the whole surah, inshallah. So let's begin. These are the major themes we're going to cover. The last part is somehow intense. It's very intense because it's covering the legal rules, okay, that Muslims should be following in marriage, in divorce, in usury, in wine, drinking, all of these things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is setting the rules in this part. That's why it's very intense. And it has like the jurisdiction part of our religion is already built mostly on this surah. So that's why it has a lot of rulings in it. That's why we need to, that's why it somehow, this is making Surah Al Baqarah complicated for a lot of people. So let's begin with the first part. When it starts with its charity, intention, and the struggle of faith. يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ. The companions around the Prophet ﷺ, they came to him and asking him like what to give, like how to spend, but to whom they should give. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answer is immediate. Here he begins with those nearest to you. Like they ask him how to spend, like which charity to give, what we should spend, whom like to who is the priority of giving sadaqah or giving charity, of helping. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listing them this way. He begins with to parents first, al-walidain. Caring for parents is the first obligation. This is number one. You should, if you would like to give a charity, if you would like to help, if you would like to spend, you need to spend first over your parents. This is the first obligation. Financial support of parents. This is an act of worship in Islam, and it's not merely a social duty. And then after that, we have close relatives. This is the second stage, like extended family members in need come before strangers, of course. And the charity to relative carries a double reward, the reward of sadaqah and the reward of maintaining family ties as well, because you will be getting both rewards of sadaqah, you're giving charity, and also you're getting the deed, the good deed, and the reward of connecting family ties and protecting them. Then it goes after that for the orphans, al-yatama, children who have lost their fathers and have no provider. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes their protection, and neglecting orphans is listed among the gravest sins. Then after that, it goes for the al-masakin, the poor ones. Those masakin, those who cannot meet their basic needs, they barely meet their basic needs. Like miskin refers to someone whose poverty has left them still and unable to move forward in life. And after that, the traveler means ibn sabil. like a person who's stranded away from home, is a stranger, and even if they are wealthy in their own land, but distance and circumstances can make anyone vulnerable because he is a stranger in the place he is now. So this is the list that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listing in this verse to when the companions started to ask the Prophet what to do, like as Muslims, tell us about the rules. Like then they asked, ماذا ينفقون? What should we spend? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listed or labeled this list as it is here in this verse. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verse 216, he's saying, كتب عليكم القتال وهو كره لكم. And this is here, the companions came to the Prophet in this verse and asked about fighting. Like, because they were reluctant and troubled by the obligation of qital, fighting in the cause of Allah. And the verse was revealed in response to this question and their hesitation. They disliked the idea of fight or wars, finding it very heavy on their souls. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealing this verse, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ قِتَالٌ, fighting has been prescribed for you, though it is disliked by you. Then you like it even if you hate it, but it's been prescribed for you. And this verse confronts one of the most challenging aspects of faith, that divine command does not always align with personal comforts. Like it doesn't have to be something comfortable. You would be going through fight, and the fight here is for the cause, for spreading Islam at the beginning. At its beginning, they were supposed and they needed to spread Islam everywhere, and they needed also the authority at that time to spread Islam. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse, that you need to go through this to spread Islam and beat the disbelievers. Then he revealed this verse along with عسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم, like you may dislike something which is good for you, and وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم, and you may love something while it's harmful for you. And this verse is being applied to everything in our life. Like even if you hate the thing, even if you see that there is danger in it or it looks evil from outside, just know that even if it looks like that, it would have a goodness inside it. And sometimes the hardship and the pain may carry also good benefit and unmeasurable benefit inside it. And also sometimes you love something, and this thing might be looking like you will be desperately needing it, but it has big danger inside it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealing this verse for everything and applying this for everything. And he begins with the most hateful thing, which is qital, which is fighting in wars. Then he puts this rule as well for us as Muslims. After that, he says also the companions approached the Prophet ﷺ with a serious concern about يسألونك عن الشهر الحرام قتال فيه, like they ask you about fighting in the sacred months. Like a small Muslim group had encountered a Quraysh caravan during the sacred month of Rajab, and during those months before Islam, it was already prohibited to have wars during that, like a time when fighting was traditionally forbidden in Arabia at that time. And one man was killed, two were captured, and goods also were seized from Muslims. When they returned to Medina, they feared that they have committed a grave sin because they were exposed to a fight in their sacred month, which like the month that was when it was prohibited to run any kind of fighting at that time. And then the Quraysh seized on this, and the disbelievers who were on Quraysh, they are the ones who initiated the whole fight. But the Muslims feared it because they were at their beginning of Islam, and they were very cautious. They were very careful what to do exactly, and they felt that it was a huge sin to practice or to go through this fight. That's why they came and asked the Prophet ﷺ what to do in that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is acknowledging the seriousness of the fighting in these months, and he's saying قُلْ قِتَالٌ فِيهِ كَبِيرٌ. Yes, fighting in those sacred months, it's a grave matter. Yeah, it's a huge sin. It's a big thing. But he immediately places the event in a larger moral context in the same verse, and the greater crimes of Quraysh are exposed. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that they block people from the path of Allah, prevent believers from accessing the Masjid al-Haram, driving Muslims out of their homes in Mecca, systematic persecution of believers for their faith. That's why he's saying he's putting this verse inside the verse of the sacred months. وَالْفِتْنَةُ أَكْبَرُ مِنَ الْقَتْلِ. Persecution and fitna is worse than killing. Like we have here a bigger crime. When they blocked you from the path of Allah, and when they prevented you, and when they initiated the whole fight, this is fitna. وَالْفِتْنَةُ أَكْبَرُ مِنَ الْقَتْلِ. Like here, fitna refers to the religious persecution and forcing people away from their faith, torturing believers and preventing them from worshipping Allah freely. Harming a person's faith and spiritual freedom is more destructive than the physical harm of war. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stating, yes, he's affirming that don't initiate the war and the fight during these sacred months, okay, because they are sacred, and fighting in them are very prohibited. We have them, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram, Rajab. All of these are sacred ones. 4 months we shouldn't be approaching any fight in them. But he's affirming that what happened here in this situation, that there was fitna, there was people who were trying to force believers away from their faith. That's why we have a bigger crime here. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is letting us or showing us how to look at the whole image from outside. It's not only now a matter of fighting in the sacred months. It's the problem is that we have bigger problem, which is fitna, which is the persecution or forcing people away from their religion. So after that, in verse 218, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those who believed, migrated and struggled. Those who believed, those who immigrated, and those who strove in the path of Allah. These are the ones who hope for the mercy of Allah. And this verse unites 3 defining qualities of the ideal believer in here. And scholars note the purposeful sequencing. We have inner faith, we have those amanu. What does it mean amanu? Amanu means they believed, they already have the inner faith and inner conviction, okay? And this is, of course, it begins with a faith. It begins with a belief first. So belief is just a feeling, okay? And after that, we have the outward sacrifice, which is immigration, which is hijrah. So subhanAllah, everything in our life begins with a thought, with a belief. And this is what happens. We believe first. And then when we believe, what happens? I decide to wear my hijab, I decide to go for Umrah, I decide to go for Hajj. I start to take an action in here, okay? So it begins with a belief, amanu, وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا, then they've gone for sacrifice. And sacrifice here, immigration, this is not only for war or fight, it can also for anything we do for the sake of Allah. If I decide to wear hijab for the sake of Allah, if I decide to leave a country for the sake of Allah, if I decide to live among Muslims for the sake of Allah, all of these are migration for the sake of Allah. This is the second one, وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا. Then active striving, jihad. Each quality, like jihad means they strive, like this is the continuous effort in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all its forms. So we have 3 steps. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sequencing them. It begins with amanu, وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا, then they migrated, then وَجَاهَدُوا, then they took action or they strive. They have active striving. And each quality, subhanAllah, builds upon the previous one. And the Sa'di here observes that hope in the mercy of Allah, all of them, they are hoping for the mercy of Allah, is not passive wishful thinking here. It's the fruit of sincere sacrifice and active effort in His path. They will have already this feature always when they go for this sequence, inshallah. So this is, then we move to the verse 219. And it begins with يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر. They ask you about wine and the gambling. Look, they ask you, the companions who were around the Prophet ﷺ, they begin to ask him a lot of questions about what to do. Now our life is being changing, what to do exactly. And then they start to ask about things that they were used to do before. Then they ask the Prophet so that he gets the answer from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah would reveal a rule for them. Then here, this verse is a turning point in Islamic law. And instead of banning these habits, because these habits were very normal, like wine and gambling, this was like their lifestyle all the time before Islam. And they were drinking wine as if it's water. And they were playing gambling like every day. It was normal and it wasn't prohibited at all. Then the verse here is this verse is a turning point in Islamic law, and instead of banning it like immediately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduced a step-by-step approach to moral change. And he begins with this step. This is the first step. He acknowledged that while some people saw benefits in them, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ, they ask you about wine and gambling, say in both is great sin, it has great sin, and some benefit for people. Yes, there is benefit. What's the benefit? They gain money. There is trade because of that, right? Industry. It was industry over at that time for wine and gambling. But their sin is greater than their benefit. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the rule at the beginning. After that, in other surahs, he started to prohibit those completely, entirely, okay? Without even discussing, without even saying that it has benefit, okay? But here he begins gradually. He begins saying that, yes, it's both great sin and there is benefit. There is benefit for some people. I know that it has benefit, but their sin, look at the way he is educating us, but their sin is greater than their benefit. SubhanAllah, the harm they cause is much more worse. And scholars note here that this was the first of the 4 stages in the Quran. It was 4 stages, subhanAllah, leading to a total ban of these sins, which is wine and gambling. And this process prepared the community's hearts to give them up completely. It went to prohibition after that, because we get a lot of arguments. People are using these verses, and they would argue and say that Allah didn't prohibit it completely, and he said that it has benefit. No, this was the first step because the Muslims were just fresh at that time. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was giving the laws gradually. But after that, he made it very, very prohibited. You can explore other verses and other surahs. It has very strong consequences and punishment as well. So Islam here shows that the lasting moral change works best when people's hearts are prepared. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing their hearts for the prohibition. Like, you will have prohibited things, and you need to adapt to the new system. And this was his way to give us this rule. Then after that, we have verse 220. This is also وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْيَتَامَى. They ask you about orphans who are asking the companions around the Prophet, people who want to be Muslims, people who are Muslims, new Muslims. They ask. People were worried about how to handle the wealth of orphans. Like, they feared that mixing their own money for those who are taking care of orphans, they feared at that time that to mix their own money with an orphan's money would be wrong, okay? And they feared Allah in that, like that they would be taking the orphan's money. So they asked if they should keep everything completely separate. Like, they asked the Prophet, should we keep everything separate? Like, we are living together, how would we deal? How would we take care of them, and how would we spend over them? Should we make everything separate? And the answer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing how to balance daily life with a spiritual responsibility, when he's saying islahun lahum khair, setting things right for them is best. To set things right for them is best, okay? And the guardians also, those guardians who are taking care of the orphans, can combine their household resources with those of the orphans, it's fine. The main goal must be the well-being of the child. Okay, as long as you don't deprive the child, it's fine. Not taking advantage of their money, you are protecting them, it's fine. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us, وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ الْمُفْسِدَ مِنَ الْمُصْلِحِ. Allah knows who intends harm, like and who intends good. If you have bad intention to steal their money, to take their money, and to deprive them, he knows, he would be knowing it very, very, very well. And if you intend good, that you would be watching out what you're doing exactly, protecting their money, even if you're gonna spend, okay, on them, but you will be watching, you will be careful on doing that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gonna know that very well, easily. Okay, so that's why he's gonna be knowledgeable about who's intending harm and who's intending good. And subhanallah, look at the, like, when we look deeply into those verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at the way he talked about yatama, about orphans. Look at the beauty of Islam. And the orphans here appears 23 times in the Quran, subhanallah, showing how Islam cares for those who are vulnerable. And he was setting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set a lot of rules for the orphans so that we protect their rights all the time. Like if you go to the rules of the Quran, you would see that, subhanallah, all of these verses are very, very protective to us. But what happens around nowadays is that people do not go to the root and see the rules, the main rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set on us. That's why when we look at this surah, subhanallah, we will be looking at the fairness of the rules and the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all the rules he's putting on us. So after that, we go for verse 222, 221, and here it's marriage and the priority of faith in here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ, do not marry polytheistic women until they believe. Like, make sure that you don't marry those who are disbelieving. Okay, a believing slave woman, look, a believing slave woman is better than a polytheist, even if she impresses you, even if this polytheist is very beautiful and impressing you. But subhanallah, a slave woman, if she's a believer, she would be much better than the disbelieving one. And they invite, because those who are disbelieving ones, those who are polytheists, they invite you to the fire, while Allah calls to paradise and forgiveness by His permission. And the early Muslim community, some believers at the time, at the beginning, where they were still socially connected to the pagan society and the disbelievers ones. And this verse establishes a foundational rule, because marriage must be built on a shared faith. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had wisdom at that time to build the community, the Muslim community, to spread it around as well. Like if every believer, if every Muslim goes to marry a polytheist one, or someone who's disbelieving, or atheist one, so the whole Islam is going to crash again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had wisdom at that time to protect Islam, and also apply this rule that belief now or faith is more important. And to marry any woman, okay, or to marry any man, if they are believing, it's much better to marry any atheist one or disbelieving one, even if subhanallah, they are looking very pretty or well looking, or if they impress you a lot. Make sure that you choose faith first and set priority to faith first. So a believing slave woman is better than a polytheist woman, even if she impresses you. And subhanallah, in Arab society, a slave was the lowest social rank at that time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned according to the situation at that time. If the Quran overturns worldly standards, faith outweighs beauty in here, wealth, lineage, and status. Like he's telling you, he doesn't mean any kind of racist thing in here. He's telling you that faith is much more, like when, even if she's a slave woman, subhanallah, her faith is gonna make her more rich than the other one, even if she is a king, she is a queen, and she's having, she doesn't have faith. Subhanallah, this woman who is a slave is gonna outweigh her with her faith. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is applying, He's setting the rules, and He's putting priority to those who are having faith. Those who are not having faith, what is the danger of them? They invite you to the fire. So a person who doesn't share belief in Allah may gradually pull the believer away from faith, through what? Because they will be a spouse, subhanallah, like they will be very influential and affecting each other. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling here to paradise and forgiveness. So a marriage in Islam is a partnership, should lead both spouses toward Allah, not away from Him. So that's why you need to be careful while marrying, because this is the most important tool that would help you to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah makes His signs clear so that people may reflect. And these rulings protect what? Protects Islam, protect faith, protect families and the spiritual future of the next generation as well. And all of these, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had wisdom for applying these rules and revealing them to us, so that we protect Islam and we protect our faith as well. So after that, we go for verses 222 to 223. And this is going to talk about family purity and the sacred intimacy. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ, and they ask you about menstruation. Okay, the menstruation period for women. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing menstruation as adha. Yeah, it's a state of discomfort for women, and Muslims are instructed to refrain from any sexual relationship during this period. And however, this is crucial, emotional intimacy, companionship, conversation, and physical closeness, and all other forms remain entirely permissible. This is something different. We're talking here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only prohibiting the sexual relationship in this context. And the pre-Islamic Arab and Jewish practices often treated menstruating women as fully isolated. But Islam is not doing that. Islam is just prohibiting only that period of sexual relationship, only that period that's going to be you need to be refrain from any relationship with that woman, this kind of relationship only. But for the regarding pre-Islamic Arab and Jewish, they were getting isolated completely from the woman, subhanallah, and like for under any other kind of relationship, even the companionship, even the conversation. And then Islam took the compassionate middle path, physical boundaries with full emotional connection preserved. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in verse 223 the language of cultivation. He نِسَائِكُمْ حَرْثٌ لَكُمْ فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّ شِئْتُمْ. Your wives are a place of cultivation for you, so approach your cultivation however you wish. And harth here, it's a metaphor, okay? Harth is profound, very profound, because this word is evoking care, nurturing, investment. This is the place of the production of life. Because she's giving birth to children, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving her this analogy. And Ibn Kathir is clarifying this permits intimacy in any lawful manner, while making clear that the orientation must always be toward what produces life, not what violates nature. The verse ends with a reminder of taqwa, to fear Allah, to be conscious of the presence of Allah in all matters of intimacy. وَقَدِّمُوا لَأَنفُسِكُمْ, and put forth good deeds for yourselves. You need to put good deeds also for yourself, and fear Allah in what you're doing, and know that you will meet Him, and give glad tidings to the believers. All of these are system. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it doesn't have anything that is offensive to women. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing that the woman is being created this way, okay? And He is also giving the rules for the man how to approach her. You need to avoid contacting her in this kind of relationship during that time. And subhanallah, your wife is a place of cultivation for you. And cultivation means it's like you need to take care about this land. You need to take care about this place, about her overall, because subhanallah, this is analogy of her as the production of life. That's why you need also to put good deeds for yourselves and protect this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just setting us the rules, describing us very well what to do exactly. وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّكُمْ مُلَقُّوهُ, and He is ending the verse, know that you will meet Him, okay? And give glad tidings to the believers, those who believe. So these are rules about the woman. And then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is moving to the keeping the oath, or talking about like using the oath in their speeches in verses 224 and 225. وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لِأَيْمَانِكُمْ. Do not make Allah a target for your oath. and as an excuse to refrain from doing good, being righteous, and making peace among people. Allah is all hearing and all knowing. And like they at that time there was a lot of intense misuse of oath at that time in Arabian culture. Like they used to use the name of Allah in everything to justify refusing good actions. For example, they would say, I swear by Allah, I will not speak to him. And it's something good. Like, but like, subhanAllah, like to speak to the man is something good, but he's trying to use or to take an oath for making something that shouldn't be done. Like you should be speaking to people around you. And and then using that oath to avoid reconciliation, like you're using the name of Allah, the oath, you're taking the name of Allah as an oath and you swear by it to avoid reconciliation or and to do bad things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closes this and He's saying, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لَأَيْمَانِكُمْ. Do not make Allah a target for your oath as an excuse to refrain from doing good. Okay, so don't never use it for that. Allah is all hearing. He's ending the verse saying that Allah is all hearing. He hears everything and He's all knowing. So subhanAllah, using a religious oath as a shield against doing what is right, reconciling relationships, giving charity, or correcting wrong or misuse of Allah's name. Like subhanAllah, when I say, I swear by Allah, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna talk to my mother anymore. Okay, I swear to Allah, I'm not gonna give charity anymore. This is the exact meaning of this verse. Like you shouldn't be using the name of Allah, the oath, this oath, to stop doing something that is righteous or good. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in verse 225, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم. Allah does not hold people accountable for careless habitual utterances. Accountability is for oath made with deliberate intention of the heart. Okay, so He's looking more at the heart, like what were you intending while you were taking the oath exactly. Because some people would be having this habit to say, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, in every single word. Sometimes also they don't watch which intention they have exactly. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Allah does not hold people accountable for careless habitual utterances. Accountability is for oath made with deliberate intention of the heart. Okay, but of course, do not make Allah a target for your oath. So this is the negation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put. Okay, then we go for verses 226 and until 227, and this is the oath. Okay, another oath of ila, abstention. What is ila in Arabic? Just a second. Ila in Arabic, it refers to a husband when he is swearing an oath to abstain from his wife. Like he's taking an oath and swears by Allah that he will be abstaining from his wife. He will not be in touch with his wife. And this was a practice used in pre-Islamic Arabia as a form of informal, indefinite separation that left the woman in a state of waiting. Okay, neither married in a functional sense nor free to remarry. And they used to do this. Like, I swear by Allah, you're not my wife anymore. I swear by God, you're not my wife anymore. Okay, so I will not be in touch with you. So I will not be in relationship with you. So this kind of oath, they used to take it most of the time, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prohibiting it, and Islam is abolishing here this injustice by imposing a clear time limit and requiring a definite resolution. Okay, then he's giving the 4 months limit. The husband must wait no longer than 4 months before making a decision. So if you're gonna cut the relationship this way, you have maximum 4 months. Okay, and then after that reconciliation, he returns to the marriage. This is the preferred encouraged path. If there's way of reconciliation, you can go back and reconcile with your wife during that time. And if you are unwilling to reconcile, he must pronounce divorce, freeing the woman honorably. So he has only this period of 4 months. And this ruling reflects, subhanAllah, a core Quranic value, which is a woman's dignity. And right to a resolved marital status cannot be suspended indefinitely. And look at the rights of women here. Like before, they used to do this, before Islam, and they used to leave her waiting. She cannot get divorced, and she cannot get married again, and she cannot take any action in her life. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already commanded them to stop this, and you have only that period, only this period, to take a decision. You can reconcile, you can get back, but after that, if more than 4 months, you can just divorce. So this ruling, subhanAllah, is giving the right for a woman. And then he goes for verse 228. This is the waiting period and equal rights. Okay. And والمطلقات يتربصن بأنفسهن ثلاثة قروء. Like divorced women must wait for themselves 3 menstrual cycles. Okay. Like if there is divorce happening, okay, so the divorced woman, we call it the waiting period, which is idda. Okay. This is serving multiple purposes, confirming the absence of, why is it 3 months? Why is it 3? It has to, like, she has to pass 3 menstrual cycles, because this is confirming the absence of the pregnancy, okay, allowing space for reflection and possible reconciliation as well, and protecting lineage clarity. Then Islam frames this not as a burden imposed on women, but as protected period with legal rights and financial obligations upon the husband. So also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that during that time, if the woman is already pregnant, it's not lawful for them to conceal. Don't conceal, don't hide what Allah has created in your womb. Don't conceal it. Even if you are in that period, don't conceal it and don't hide it. So we have rule 1 in this part. The iddah is obligatory. Okay, the iddah, this period, the 3 menstrual cycles. Divorced women must wait 3 menstrual cycles. Okay, we call it quru, before remarrying another one. And this is a legal obligation. Subhanallah. And scholars differ on whether quru means menstrual cycles or periods of purity. But the majority of the scholars say menstrual cycles, while Shafi'i scholars say periods of purity. But in the end, it's similar. It's around that time. And then we have rule 2, concealment is forbidden. Like a divorced woman must not hide, must not conceal a pregnancy or falsely claim one. This protects what the child's lineage and the father's rights as well, and the integrity of the iddah period. Subhanallah, look at the beauty of our religion. It's not from a man to a man, subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the woman, and he knows exactly how many months should she need to be ready for another man, subhanallah. And also this is protecting what the children lineage as well, and the father's rights as well, and the integrity of this iddah period, subhanallah. This is mercy from Allah. So if they, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they truly believe in Allah and the last day, this is honesty. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that this is happening. Of course, this is only will be applicable for those who believe in Allah. They will be doing it easily. And then we have rule 3, which is the husband's right to reconciliation. Like during the iddah of a revocable divorce, okay, talaq raj'i, like it can happen again, they can return back again, which is the first and the second. The husband has the right to take his wife back without a new contract. It would be easy for them to get back to their wives. However, the right is conditional if they intend reconciliation, using this right to harm or delay the woman, because some men would return the wife with them to live with them, claiming that I'm returning you to be living with me because I have the right, and then they would be leaving her like that, okay, without talking, without any relationship, and then they leave her, they get her waiting as well. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it very clear that it has to be for the purpose of reconciliation, like you are getting back again, okay. If you want to return her back during those months, okay, make sure you have the right, the full right to return her during those months for the first divorce and the second divorce, but make sure that you don't harm, you don't have that bad intention of harming her and making her waiting. Okay, then we go for rule 4, which is the reciprocal rights, which is women have rights equal to their obligations, like according to what is fair, ma'ruf. During the iddah, during these months, the husband must provide housing, and during the menstrual cycles of divorce, subhanallah, he must provide housing and financial support for her as well, and the woman retains her rights fully. She's not abandoned or stripped of her status. And then rule 5, the degree of men. Men have a degree over women. Look at this, because this has a lot of conflict or argument here. Men have a degree over women in this context, and subhanallah, scholars explain this as the husband's additional right of revocation during iddah, paired with his additional financial obligation. This is the daraja when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that men has a degree over women in here, that they have a degree of responsibility, they have a degree of providing, of helping, of supporting. They have this degree, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is protecting the woman this way. That you have this degree of protecting her, providing her as well, and covering her financial needs. And subhanallah, if we follow Islam this way, we wouldn't have had all of these crimes around, or problems or troubles. So this is a degree of responsibility, not of superiority in human worth at all. So this is the rules. I'm trying to make it very quick so that you understand from the surface. So these are the rules in this verse, okay? And then we have verse 229, which is at-talaqu marratan, okay? Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, divorce is twice. Pre-Islamic Arabia had no limit of divorce, by the way, and revocation before Islam. And a man could divorce and take back his wife an unlimited number of times, and effectively using it as a weapon of control. And subhanallah, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was arranging everything, was fixing everything. He wasn't prohibiting. He was arranging the mess that was happening around during that time of pre-Islamic Arabia. Like the men at that time, they used to deal with women in a very bad way, like as slaves, as things, as their properties. They used to marry them and marry also multiple hundreds of wives, and they would return her back at their preferences. All of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arranged them. That's it, okay? And put the rules here. You shouldn't be exceeding that limit. So, and look at how he arranged the whole thing, and also for the sake of the woman in the end. So it was kind of reformation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was reforming things and fixing things out. So after each, we have first divorce, okay? This is the reversible during iddah, the first one that the husband can get back to, can return her, the wife, okay? So the marriage can be restored easily without a contract. We have the second divorce, also reversible during iddah, a second and final chance for reconciliation. And then we have the decision point in here, which is the third one. Either retain with kindness, okay? فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. You need now to choose to either retain her with kindness or release her with grace. Okay, no middle ground of harm is acceptable here. Then, وَلَا يَحِلُّ لَكُمْ أَن تَأْخُذُوا مِمَّا آتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ شَيْئًا. Look at, subhanAllah, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not lawful for you to take back anything of what you have given them. Okay, don't take anything from the dowry or the things, or if you have bought clothes or anything for her, don't take it. So when a husband initiates a divorce, he has no right to reclaim mahr or dowry he gave his wife. The mahr belongs to her fully and unconditionally. Taking it back is explicitly forbidden. It's prohibited completely. And then, of course, we have the exception of khula, which was mentioned in other verses, okay? So, however, the verse makes one exception, which is al-khula, unless both fear that they cannot uphold the limits of Allah. Like if the wife is the one who wishes to end the marriage here and cannot continue within the bounds of Allah, she may return the mahr to her husband in exchange for her release. This is called khul'a. That's why we got the ruling of khul'a around. So this is protecting her right to exit a marriage while ensuring the husband is not financially harmed when he did not seek the divorce. And the verse confirms فإن خفتم ألا يقيم حدود الله فلا جناح عليهما فيما افتدى به. There is no blame on either of them for what she gives to free herself. Okay, everything is clear. There is justice, alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's look at verse 230, which is the final separation and protection against abuse. If a husband would divorce his wife for the third time, he cannot what? He cannot remarry her immediately. There is no chances of remarrying her. And she must first marry another man and live with him normal life as his wife. Like when she was marrying the other man, she had the full intention to marry that man. Okay, not with she shouldn't have the intention that she's marrying to fix the situation. Then I would get back, return to my first husband. This is prohibited completely. So if that marriage ends naturally, only then she may return to her first husband. Okay, this rule prevents husbands from using divorce as a way to control or humiliate their wives. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it very arranged, okay, and also so that they would be control their tongues, and so that they wouldn't be very messy or lenient in the way they are saying divorce, because they have this control. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them a stricter control over them. So فإن طلقها فلا تحل له. If he divorces her again, she's not lawful to him after that until she has married another husband. Okay, so this is, of course, we're not talking here about even the Prophet ﷺ cursed those who are trying to make fake marriages to get married, to return back to the first marriage. It has to be very natural. If by chance you get divorced, you can get back to him, to the first one. So then we go to verses 231 to 232. Okay, and divorce must not become harm in here. The warning against what? Spite. وَلَا تَمْسِكُهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا. And do not retain them, okay, to cause them harm, because you have the authority of divorcing. Some people, some men would be retaining them, would be using this, okay, against women to retain her, to cause her harm. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them this command not to do that. Like, because some men in early Muslim society would take back their wives during the iddah period, not out of genuine desire for reconciliation, as I told you, but to reset the waiting period again and extend their control and humiliate them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explicitly forbids this behavior, calling it oppression. This is pure oppression and the transgression against divine limits. And he's saying, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And fear Allah in what you're doing, and know that Allah has full knowledge of everything. And subhanAllah, in most of the verses about women, you would be finding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always putting these words of taqwa, taqullah, fear Allah. Because these relationships are meant to test your level of faith, and if you're fearing Allah or not. Do you have this consciousness of Allah or not? So all of these are tests for us, subhanallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting most of them in these dealings between a man and wife, and especially for men when they treat women badly. He's always putting these words, wattaqullah. Especially also on Surah Al Talaq, you would find also these words, wattaqullah, fear Allah. So then we go for verse 232, the rights of separated women. Even after the iddah concludes, no one, no fathers, brothers, or former husbands has the right to prevent a woman from remarrying a suitable man if she consents. Okay, فَلَا تَعْضُلَهُنَّ أَنْ يَنْكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ. Like they are the guardians, okay, and they have the consent as well. They should be there must be guardians while marriage, but don't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, don't stop it, don't prevent them. If she accepts, don't prevent them from marrying their husbands. And this is also like if they want to get back again. And the Qurtubi reports here, this verse was revealed regarding a companion whose sister's husband wished to remarry her after a revocable divorce, like those divorces, the first divorce or the second divorce. So it was easy for him to return, but he refused, okay? And Allah corrected him directly. Her consent and her right are protected. So make sure that she has this consent, okay? And make sure you respect, as guardian, you respect this consent. So some guardians wouldn't be caring about the consent of a woman in marriage, and this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prohibiting it entirely. So after that, verse 233, breastfeeding responsibility and balance in here, in this part. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, mothers shall breastfeed their children for 2 complete years, for those who wish to complete the nursing. And this verse establishes one of the most complete frameworks for child welfare in the pre-modern law. And the mother is the primary caregiver in infancy in here. And the father bears what? Full responsibility, full financial responsibility. And neither may harm the other through the child. The child shouldn't be harmed here. Even if there is divorce, the mother should be there to breastfeed the children, and also the man should be there to support and provide financially. And any deviation from those 2-year recommendation requires mutual agreement and consultation. So the mother's rule, it's here 2 years of nursing is recommended, and acknowledgement of the biological bond and the child's nutritional needs, and the man, the father, should be providing everything, all the fees in here. And the father's obligation, the father must provide food and clothing to the nursing mother according to reasonable means. وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ. Okay, both of them, food and clothing. And then the shared decision, like cessation of nursing, to stop it, to decide to stop nursing before 2 years, or using a wet nurse, external nurse, requires consent from both parents. And Islam insists on cooperative parenting in here. Subhanallah, look at Islam. It sets all the necessary rules for any disputes, and also for any reconciliation, and also for stability as well of marriage. So after that, we have verses 234 to 235, the widow's waiting period in here. 4 months and 10 days, a widow. This woman, like whose husband is passing away, and a widow here must observe an iddah of 4 months and 10 days before remarrying. And pre-Islamic Arabia often imposed extraordinary harsh restrictions on widows at that time. Some were confined for entirely. Like subhanallah, look, I'm putting what happened before Islam, so that you would connect things together. Like before Islam, they used to leave the woman pending like that, waiting after her husband would die. They would leave her like that for an entire year in conditions of mourning. And Islam reduced this. Subhanallah, if Islam was strict, okay, it would have made it bigger, right? Longer than 1 year. But Islam, subhanallah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the nature of woman, and this woman needs to marry again, it's fine, it's her right. But look at the society. No, she should be mourning over her husband for 1 year, 2 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at, it doesn't look at these societal rules. He's looking at the nature of woman, the biological one, and how he created her. And also for the man, it's fine. If you would like to remarry again, it's fine. You have the full right. Okay, and you have only this period. That's it. He didn't say listen to the society. He didn't say just wait for the society until they accept. He's putting the rules. That's why you need to follow Islam rules and everything that you're doing, because people's life would be destroyed because of the society rulings or opinions. So the wisdom behind this specific duration, which is 4 months and 10 days, is multi-layered in here, because scholars note that it's encompassing both the period of potential pregnancy, okay, so that we make sure that she's not pregnant, and also it's a respectable period of her grief as well. So for a widow, this is her period. After that, we have verse 235, permitted indirect communication. Like during the iddah, look at this verse, during the iddah, A man cannot make a direct marriage. If any man would like to marry this widow, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it very clear here. You cannot make a direct marriage proposal. It's permissible to hint directly. Like, no problem, you can hint indirectly that I want to marry her, but to marry after the period ends, but you can just drop any hint without making any explicit proposals. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware that people have genuine human feelings and relationships. Look, and permits a subtle communication while maintaining the dignity of the waiting period at the same time. But He doesn't restrict things. If someone wants to marry that widow, no problem, you can make a hint, but don't make it direct one, don't explicit, okay, until the waiting period is over. So the permission of Allah here is mercy, subhanAllah. He didn't burden believers with suppressing all human feeling during this period, okay, only with restraining premature action. That's it. And this is also the mercy of Islam and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's go for verses 236 and 237. Divorce before consummation. So what is divorce before consummation? What if a divorce occurs before the marriage was ever consummated? And the Quran addresses this sensitive situation with compassion and clarity, and removing guilt while establishing fair financial obligations. So where no consummation occurred and no dowry, mahr, was fixed, neither party bears sin in here. Like the iddah period does not apply, the woman is free immediately. Subhanallah. And this is an important mercy, like as imposing a waiting period in such circumstances would be unnecessary burden. And what does it mean, divorce before consummation period? Like for those cases that they would marry and they don't get into relationship, okay? They just make a contract and they don't end up living together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also putting the rules in here, okay? So He's saying that like when it happens, okay, no dowry mahr was fixed and no dowry was fixed already, neither party bears sin in here, and the iddah period does not apply, okay, the woman is free immediately. This is an important mercy, okay? So the second one, the recommended compensation, even without a fixed dowry, the husband is encouraged, even if there is no fixed dowry, but the husband, like it would be a good kindness of him to give a fair gift, mut'a, for the woman as well. And its amount is left to the husband's means and generosity. And this maintains the woman's dignity and leaves no one with a sense of being discarded without acknowledgement. Then we go for the third part, which is half the dowry if agreed. If a dowry was stipulated before consummation and divorce occurs, she receives half of it unless she or the husband graciously forgoes their portion. So Allah, like it depends on their agreement in here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises those who show generosity at the end of a marriage. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always praising those who fear Allah in these dealings, especially in these dealings. So after that, he moves to verse 238, guard the prayers. And subhanallah, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. Guard strictly all your prayers, and especially the middle prayer, and stand before Allah in devout obedience. Subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is focusing now, He's switching to salah. And like he's always reminding us, like, you need to set priority of Allah and the faith and salah over everything, okay? He was always reminding us. So in the middle of a section on a family law, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inserting this command, and the placement is intentional. Like even during the emotional turbulence of marital disputes, divorce, financial negotiations, you will be having you will have this normal life. The believer must not allow personal crisis to disrupt the relationship with Allah. And that's why He's always putting these verses in the middle, okay, to remind us. It doesn't mean that because you have a problem, you have divorce, you have family issue, then you would be ignoring your salah. No, you need to maintain the salah, and you need also to be reminded with your salah as well, okay? Standing in devotion, those who are qanitin, قُمُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. The word qanitin encompasses humility, like qanitin, submission, humility, sustained focus as well in salah, and sincere reverence in the prayer. And it's not merely physical standing in here, but the standing of the soul. You are present in the salah and attentive and directed entirely toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Sa'di in here is noting that this quality transforms prayer from a ritual into genuine encounter. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, قُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, like be those who are having humility and full submission. So why is why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying as-salat al-wusta? Like, why is he signaling as-salat al-wusta, the middle prayer, out? Like Asr, because Asr time, Asr Salah is already falling during the busiest time of the day. We are busy, we are working during that time. And as people finish work, run errands, or battle end of day fatigue, and this prayer is the most easily neglected or delayed because of worldly business. You would be finding that this salah is always neglected because people in the middle of their work. That's why it's signaled out. And also the Prophet ﷺ warned that whoever misses the Asr prayer, it's as if he has lost his family and his wealth. So look at how big it is. So this is also affirming that this salah is very important. We need to be committed to praying it on time. And it's also a moment of special significance, as both the angels of the night and the angels of the day are present and testify to the believers' worship during this time. They meet up during this time, both of them, the angels of the day and the angels of the night, both of them, they exist during that time. That's why this salah is important. So we need to focus on, make sure that we get committed to salawat, hafidhu ala salah, guard strictly all your prayers, and especially the middle prayer, and standing before Allah in devout obedience. Then he's giving here the verse, in the verse 239, that prayer is never abandoned. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا. If you are in fear, in the middle of war, if in a fight, then pray on foot or while riding, subhanallah. And this is also affirming that you must never skip your prayer. Even on a battlefield, while riding or while facing an enemy, you must still pray. And this shows that staying connected to Allah is the top priority. And this is the only thing that will keep you protected from any other issue. And prayer is not just for times of peace, it's a lifeline that you must hold into no matter how difficult your situation is. And the Prophet ﷺ prayed during his military journeys, and his companions kept up the prayer even during intense battles. Look at how the fight they used to have, and they were praying, subhanallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't put any exemption to leave salah. Look, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, even in the middle of fear, in the middle of war, فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا, pray on foot or while rising. So like this is also affirming that salah and prayer is very, very important, and we need to be guarding it and make sure that to be committed to praying it, praying all the salah on time as well. So when it's safe again, فَإِذَا أَمَنْتُمْ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ, when you are safe, remember Allah, go back to performing your prayer in the normal way, it's fine, okay? But he's giving the exception here for, or the rule for those who will be in these situations, okay? So then we go for verses 240 and 242, which is the final family law principles, okay? And these verses conclude the section on family law. They include final rules for widows, guidance for divorce, and a reminder of why these laws exist. We have verse 240, this provision for widows, those among you who die and leave wives, okay? It's talking to men. Those among you who die and leave wives, the husband must leave a provision, financial support. You must leave for your widow, your wife, a financial support. You must leave a bequest for her, okay, for your widow after your death for up to 1 year, allowing her to stay in your home without being forced out. It's meant to protect, and subhanAllah, because they used to, before Islam, they used to kick out
the widow, after the family of the husband would be kicking out the woman once once he's dying. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is setting this rule that you shouldn't be you must make sure that you leave financial support for her and to be covering her and to be living in the place as well, to be staying in the same place as well, okay, for 1 year, for up to 1 year. And then dignified provision and divorce. Verse 241, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتِ مَتَاعًا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, for divorced women, provision, mut'a, okay? There is a provision for her according to what is reasonable. Even when marriage ends, the Quran requires kindness and fairness as well. So the woman shouldn't be left feeling abandoned or humiliated like that. There is a mut'a, provision, payment that you should be paying her as well. Verse 242, كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ آيَاتِهِ, thus Allah makes clear to you His signs so that you may reason. He's ending the verse with this, like this is how you should be looking at the signs of Allah, and this is how Allah is making His signs very clear so that you would be reasoning things. And the laws of God, the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not random. They are meant to help us think and act and look at the beauty of this religion and look at the mercy and the kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and build a society that is mindful of Him, okay, and we fear Him as well based on the rules that He is setting for us. So after that we go for verses 243 and 245. This is life, death, and the courage to give. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, have you not seen those who left their homes in thousands? He's talking to the Prophet. Have you not seen those who left their homes in thousands fearing death? Allah said to them, die. Then He gave them life again. Like this is, like we don't know which group exactly it was, but a group from earlier nations, and they fled their lands in thousands to escape death. Okay, they were escaping it maybe from, they say that from pandemic, from war, but they were fleeing, running away from death. And they believed running away could protect them and save their life. But life and death, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here that life and death remain entirely in the hands of Allah. They assumed that by running away from pandemic or from war or to travel to another place that they would be saved from death. But it's not happening this way, it's not working this way. Life and death remain entirely in the hands of Allah. Their escape changed nothing at all, okay? And Allah is full of bounty to people, but most are not grateful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing here that everything is under His hands, working according to Him, to His wisdom, and to His decree as well. So it doesn't mean because you are running away from it that then you will be saved from death. It's not working this way. Then we go for verse 244, okay, when He's saying, subhanAllah, look at how He's introducing what fight in the path of Allah and know that Allah is all hearing and all knowing. And this connection to the story is deliberate. Fear of death must not paralyze believers from fulfilling their duties, because at that stage they were making everything ready for Islam. They were making it big and they were fighting for it, and they want to be a big group. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was preparing their hearts for that. That's why He's telling them it's not because you run away or you would be running away from something that you would be like you would be distanced from death. It's not working out this way at all. So fear of death must not paralyze you as a believer from fulfilling your duties at all. Whether defending justice, protecting the community, or standing for truth, believers must act with trust in Allah, and He hears every intention and He knows every sincerity. And then when we go to verse 245, lend to Allah. He's saying what? مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا, who will lend to Allah a good loan. He will multiply it many times over. Allah, who owns all wealth, describes charity as a loan. Subhanallah. When you give it charity, it's as if you are giving Allah alone. And when you give it to Allah, He will be returning it to you multiplied. Emphasizing the certainty of its return, that Allah will be returning it to you multiplied. And charity in here is never a loss. Then the final, Allah restricts and expands, okay, provision, and to Him you will return. Allah is the one who, look at this verse and the depth of this verse. Subhanallah, every verse is very deep, really, but I don't have time to go through every one in depth. But subhanallah, look at the depth of this verse. Allah restricts and expands, restricts and expands. Provision. And to Him you will return. So provision comes from Allah only. So when you give sadaqah, charity, it's as if you're giving Allah. And Allah, when He returns it to you because you give it to Him, He will multiply it for you. So in those verses, from 243 to 245, 3 lessons in on one passage, subhanAllah. That fear cannot save anyone from Allah's decree, like the fear. If you run away because you want to be saved from death, it doesn't mean that you will be saved from death, okay? If Allah decrees that you will be dying here, so then you will be dying here. If He doesn't decree that you will be dying here, even if it's in the middle of war, He will not decree this. You need to believe that. And He's teaching us what to do exactly as believers. And believers must act with courage in fulfilling our responsibilities as well. And giving in the path of Allah is a guaranteed investment. When you go for the path of Allah, giving a charity for the path of Allah, this is a guaranteed investment because you will get it multiplied many times. Subhanallah. So then, after that, we go to this part of this section from 246 to 252, the lessons of faith about Talut, the story of Talut and Jalut. And like after the time of Musa alayhi salam, Bani Israel, you know the story of Bani Israel, like we have a big chunk of it in Surah Al Baqarah. And at that time of Musa, Bani Israel were weak. After the departure of Musa alayhi salam, Bani Israel were weak and oppressed by their enemies at that time. And their leaders asked their prophet, there was a prophet at that time, they asked the leaders of Bani Israel, they asked that prophet, appoint for us a king. Bring for us a king, so we may fight in the cause of Allah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time appointed Talut. Okay, but they objected. You know the nature of Bani Israel. They objected to his background and lack of wealth. Like he doesn't look wealthy enough. He should be like as a leader. He must be wealthy. They assumed this way. But Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is correcting them and saying that Allah has chosen him and increased him in knowledge and physical strength. Like he وَزَادَهُ بَسْطَةً فِي الْعِلْمِ وَالْجِسْمِ. I already increased him in knowledge and physical strength. What do you want more? Because they were judging on things based on the money, the wealth, that it has to be this way. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also filtering those who are strong, the strongest ones, those who are having knowledge and physical strength in here. And true leadership is based on ability and divine selection, not wealth and lineage. He's affirming this as well. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them Talut, and then we go for the test of the river. Okay, they started to fight for the cause of Allah, for the sake of Allah, and then Allah saying that I'm gonna test you with a river. And Talut instructed because he's a prophet and he's the leader, instructed his people. He's saying, "In Allah mubtalikum binahr," like Allah is testing you with a river. And in this river, during this fight and this battle, imagine that there is a test that is saying, drink only a small sip. Like they are, subhanAllah, sweating and very thirsty, and they are going for a fight, okay, in the middle of desert. And once they see a river, and then Allah is testing them with this river. And He's asking them to drink only a small sip. Like, subhanAllah, a small sip, this is only the stretch of this hand. And most of them failed and drank freely. Like most of them, they couldn't. Imagine that you are very thirsty in here, and that you would be taking the whole water. You would be forgetting about this test. But subhanallah, only a small disciplined group obeyed. Only a small one. There are very few ones who listened and obeyed to Allah, to the command of Allah, and they took only one sip. And this test revealed who had self-control and true obedience. What was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing in this test? He was filtering those who are very strong in their nafs. and those who are having true obedience. Then the qualities needed for a battle as well, because this is what he needs. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he filters those out, even if they are thousands, and he takes only 300 of them, okay, to fight the army, but those 300, they would be very, very strong, okay, because they have what they have, a strong resilience, because they were obeying Allah, they obeyed Allah, and they controlled their nafs at the time of the test. So the subhanallah, before the confrontation with Jalut, which is the enemy, the believers said what? رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. Ya Allah, make our steps, make us patient and make our steps firm, and grant us victory. Give us victory. And subhanallah, their first request was patience, and this is the foundation of everything, to give you patience and to make your steps firm. And then they defeated them. They defeated the enemy, the people of Talut, those who are filtered ones, they defeated the enemy, which is Jalut, by the permission of Allah. Okay, despite being far fewer, the believers won. During the battle, a young man named, and during this battle of Talut and his people, there was a young man called Dawood at that time. Okay, and the Dawood, he was still a young man. It was his beginning at that time, and then he killed Jalut. He killed the enemy. He's the one who killed the Jalut, the enemy. Then Allah then granted him both kingship and wisdom. He gave Dawood this wisdom and the kingship, and he one of the great leaders raised from an unexpected beginning. And the passage concludes with a universal principle: if Allah did not allow some people to restrain others, corruption would spread throughout the earth. This is with the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, to put those people who would be fighting through such struggles. Allah preserves justice and balance in the world. This is the system of life, to have this. To if Allah did not allow some people to restrain others, corruption would be spreading everywhere. That's why he's telling you that fighting is necessary. Otherwise, we will be living in corruption. And his also the distinguished verse in here, كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة. He's teaching us that how many a small group has overcome a large group by the permission of Allah. It's not by the quantity. Okay, it's by the permission of Allah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, look, because they have just sipped a small sip, they have drank a small sip, and they obeyed Allah and they were successful in that test, this small test, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them victorious in the other errand, which is the fighting. He's doing the same with us in everything else. He's testing your nafs on something small. Are you going to sacrifice it? Then he gives you the victory in the other errands, which are logical ones. So this is how we should be thinking about the attributes of Allah and how he's dealing with us as well. This is an example. You can apply it also on yourself. Then we go for verse 253, the ranks of messengers. And here he's saying that those messengers, we give some of them superiority over others. Like all prophets are honored. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that all prophets are honored from him, but they are not equal in rank. Allah himself elevated some above others. Among them, like Musa alayhi salam, for example, who had direct speech with Allah. So this is one of them. Also, those who were elevated in rank, like he raised some of them in degrees. A lot of scholars say that the highest rank belongs to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And also we have the clear miracles which Prophet Isa was giving clear signs and healing the blind, okay, and the leper, raising the dead, and speaking as an infant. And also وَأَيَّدْنَاهُ بِرُوحِ الْقُدْسِ, like he was being supported by Jibril as well. We strengthened him with the Holy Spirit, referring to Angel Jibril. So why did people still fight? If Allah had willed, those after them would not have fought. Like despite this clear guidance, people still divided. Like despite all of these messengers and prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent, like they are still dividing and they are still arguing, okay, due to pride. Some rejected, some believed, okay, so it's still. And then we have the divine wisdom in here, but Allah does whatever he wills. Allah allowed human free choice. This is your test, to have the free choice, and miracles alone do not guarantee belief. Human conflict comes from rejecting guidance, yet Allah remains fully in control. So when we go for verse 254, this is spent before the day when trade is impossible. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, yeah, oh you who believe, spend from what we have provided for you. And your wealth is not truly yours, it's rizq from Allah, it's a provision from Allah. This verse is preparing the believers for the reality of the day of judgment, when charity will no longer be possible. Okay, there won't be any kind of intervention from anyone for you, wala shafa'a. There won't be any kind of friendship over there. Nobody, no friend can save you. Even family will not help. Wala bay', there is no trade. There won't be any transactions. You cannot buy salvation by money or any trade over there. Like all of these will not be in there in the day of judgment. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us with this. أنفقوا مما رزقناكم. Spend from what we have provided for you. How to spend? Spend, of course, on good deeds. So the final warning: the disbelievers are the true wrongdoers, and the greatest injustice is rejecting Allah after receiving guidance. Spend now before the day arrives. Okay, so then we go for Ayatul Kursi. Okay, Ayatul Kursi, verse 255. Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayy al-qayyum. The throne verse. Subhanallah, there is no God except worthy of worship except Him, the ever living, the sustainer of all existence. Neither drowsiness overtakes Him nor sleep. So the Prophet ﷺ declared that Ayatul Kursi, this verse, to be the greatest verse in the Quran. It's a single breathtaking verse that encapsulates the entirety of Islamic theology about the nature of Allah in here. That's why it's strong protection for all of us, because every phrase of it is a theological statement of profound depth. How Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum means what? The ever-living, the self-sustaining. He sustains all the creation while needing nothing. He doesn't need any one of us. He's very sufficient. Every existent thing depends on him, and he depends on nothing. Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum, لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. He never sleeps or feeling drowsy. So subhanallah, like uninterrupted awareness and control over all creation at every moment he's living. And also, just scared me. وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض. His kursi footstool encompasses the heavens and the earth. The sheer scale of his dominion is beyond human comprehension. And ولا يؤوده حفظهما, like means preserving the heavens and the earth does not tire him, does not exhaust him at all. His preservation of all creation costs him no effort whatsoever. So subhanallah, this verse, of course everybody is familiar with this verse, and this is the strongest protection ever. So it's very strong. Even in morning dhikr and evening dhikr, we should be protecting ourselves with it all the time. So then we go for the verse of 256, okay, which is لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. No compulsion in religion. Well, like there shall be no compulsion in religion. The right way has become distinct from the wrong way. This verse is one of the most cited in the entire Quran regarding the foundations of religious freedom in Islam. And subhanAllah, some Ansari companions had children who had been raised in Jewish or Christian faith at that time, at the beginning of Islam. And when Islam came, they wanted to force their children to convert at that time. And this verse corrected them. Let the truth of Islam be evident, and let the choice be freely made. Subhanallah. And قد تبين الرشد من الغي, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that everything is clear now. The right way has become distinct from the wrong way. Everybody's responsible now. Okay, so don't force anyone. فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى. Whoever rejects false deities and believes in Allah has grasped the most trustworthy handhold. Those who rejects false gods, okay, and believing in Allah, he has grasped the most trustworthy handhold. This is the most the trustworthy handhold that will be protecting him all the time, that will never break. It's not shaky. It's a very strong. العروة الوثقى, something that is handhold that is very strong. And this is the firmest handle that you can hold to it. And it conveys a bond that is unbreakable by any force in existence. Then, from darkness into light, verse 257. One of the strongest verses. Allahu wali alladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila nur. Allah is the protector of those who believe. He brings them out from darkness into light. Like this, subhanAllah, dhulumat means what? Dhulumat means like when you are in misguidance, when you don't have clarity, when you don't have insight, when you are seeing truth as falsehood and falsehood as truth. All of these are darkness. And Ibn Kathir observes this profoundly significant, how he's saying that there are countless forms of darkness. The darkness can be ignorance, you're ignoring a sin, a doubt, despair, spiritual blindness, you don't see the truth, but only one light, which is the light of faith, the light of guidance and divine proximity. Okay, this is light, subhanAllah, to see the truth as truth, to know that this Islam is the true religion, this is the nur, this is the light, to see people on their reality, to know who is the one who's close to Allah and who's the one who is distant from Allah, to distinguish them, to be loving those people who are close to Allah and to be hating those people who are away from Allah and disconnected, and they might take me to darkness. I would be, subhanAllah, the believer would be always seeing those things. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with them, He's their protector, then He would be taking them from any darkness. If they are in any darkness, He would be taking them to the whole light. And Allah al-Wali, when He's saying that His Wali means protector, ally, and intimate guardian for you. And Allah does not merely point believers toward the light from a distance. He personally guides and accompanies and removes the believer from darkness. This is, subhanAllah, this is affirming that there is a deep here personal divine relationship between Allah and between the believer. He's always defending them, He's always helping them. And also in the same verse, He's contrasting with disbelief. The verse continues like those who disbelieve have guardians who lead them from light into darkness. The opposite would be happening for those who are disbelieving. The contrast is complete here. You would like how, subhanAllah, even if the disbeliever in a light path, and he is tending to take something that is good for him, subhanAllah, he will be taken to darkness. So because he's disbelieving, even if there was something that would take him to good things, he would be always taken to darkness. So subhanAllah, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that it's based on our belief. Okay, if you are believing, He would be helping you, but for those who are disbelieving, they would be taken to darkness, and they would be living in darkness without realizing and without knowing. Also, verse 258, the debate between Ibrahim and the tyrant king. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding here the Prophet ﷺ, and is reminding us with the story of Ibrahim in here, this part, when he's telling him, have you not seen the one who argued with Ibrahim about his Lord because Allah had given him kingship? And subhanAllah, most scholars are saying that this king was Namrud. He was tyrant who grew arrogant from his power, like until he felt himself as if he's God. And Ibrahim's argument, he said that my Lord is the one who gives, Allah is the one who gives life and causes death. And then Namrud say, I also give life and death. Okay, like he brought two prisoners and killing one and releasing the other. And he said, look, I'm giving life and causing death. I can release this and I can kill this. So subhanAllah, also there was when Ibrahim alayhi salam said, he argued and said, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْتِي بِالشَّمْسِ مِنَ الْمَشْرِقِ فَأْتِ بِهَا مِنَ الْمَغْرِبِ. Allah brings the sun from the east, so bring it from the west. The king was stunned at that time, and of course he has no answer here. Okay, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concludes saying, وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people. Okay, then verse 259, the man who witnessed resurrection. أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها. Like the one who passed by a town that had collapsed completely. What is the story of this? Most scholars are calling this man as Uzair. Okay, his name is Uzair. And the Quran, of course, didn't name him. And the Quran, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes He doesn't name things. He just wants us to take the story, to take the moral. And then passing by this man, Uzair, he was passing by a ruined town, and he asked, أَنَّ يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. How will Allah bring this back to life after its death? That, like, there was a ruined town, he was passing by it, and then he said, أَنَّ يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. How will Allah bring this back to life after its death? This was not disbelief, it was wonder. Okay, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him the miracle. How Allah caused him to die for 100 years. Okay, when revived, he thought only a day had passed. Imagine. And it was actually 100 years. And Allah showed him his food was preserved, the food stayed the same, it hadn't spoiled, and his donkey was resurrected before his eyes, subhanAllah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we raised the bones and cover them with flesh. He resurrected the donkey. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is declaring, after witnessing all this, He declared what? أَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. I know that Allah has power over all things. Resurrection is not theoretical. Allah demonstrates it through real events. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning this event for us, kind of a sign that you need to remember this. And as long as Allah has mentioned that, okay, so He's telling us that you need to believe in the miracles, and I'm the one. Also, you need to believe in the power of Allah, that He's the one who's bringing things to life again. This is also affirmation about the power of Surah Al Baqarah in mentioning those spots or those parts that talk about reviving, returning, resurrecting. All of these are key terms for Surah Al Baqarah, and it's also manifestation of its power of reviving us as well. So go for verse 260. Ibrahim alayhi salam asks also to see what resurrection. Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyi al-mawta. My Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Ibrahim, do you not believe? Then Ibrahim said what? I believe, but my heart may be feeling more reassured. It wasn't doubt at all. It was that he wants to be reassured. That's it. And this shows that faith can grow from belief to certainty as well. Even the Prophet sought deeper reassurance at that time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the miracle. How? He told him, okay, so take 4 birds, and he was and cut them in 2 pieces and place them on different mountains, and then call them. They will come to you swiftly. And then the birds, subhanAllah, returned all of them alive again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing him this miracle, and Allah ends the verse with وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Know that Allah is almighty and wise. And resurrection is not only possible, it's certain that we will be resurrected. And it's very easy for Allah. He's doing it in a blink of an eye. So don't assume that you will be dying and you will not be resurrected. You will be resurrected, and you will be accountable as well for all the mistakes and sins that you have committed. And there is a reward, a place as well for all of us. So the power of Allah is absolute, and His wisdom is perfect. Okay, so we have those verses. 258, it was debate with Namrud. Allah controls the universe. 259, man revived after 100 years. Resurrection is real. Again, Ibrahim's experiment. Faith can deepen into certainty, and resurrection also is certain in here and real. So look at the sequence of this proof. Then we move to verses 261 to 263, and this is the economics and ethics of charity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying what the example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed that grows 7 spikes, and each spike are 100 greens. Subhanallah. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this analogy, okay? And this is like one seed, like when you plant one seed, you get 700 grains in the end. And this is showing us that the acts of giving, okay, they will be multiplied in the sight of Allah. Wallahu yudha'if liman yasha, they will be multiplied for whoever He wills. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is illustrating the multiplication of sincere charity, and He's giving also an analogy for it to make it very clear. And this is His way of illustrating things, to give us an analogy this way. So those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed that grows 7 spikes, and each spike are 100 grains. So count how many, and subhanallah, He can also get it more multiplied. So Allah multiplies for whom He wills. The 700-fold reward is not a limit, but an example of the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those protecting their word, those who give a charity without reminder, preserve the full reward of their giving, and their promise they will have their reward with their Lord, no fear and no grief. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is protecting them. And then we go for verse 263. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِنْ صَدَقَةٍ. Kind words and forgiveness are better than charity followed by harm. The Quran teaches that character and dignity matter more than the amount given. Charity must uplift the poor, not humiliate them. For those who are giving sadaqah and then they keep reminding those they are giving, or they keep harming them, or take it and they are dealing with them in a bad way, and they keep reminding them, look, I gave you that sadaqah before, I helped you that way, they are losing the whole thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is affirming here the necessity of saying kind words and forgiveness are better than charity followed by harm. When you say kind words, it's much better than giving the sadaqah and saying harm words. So kind words and forgiveness are being affirmed in here. Then 264, the charity that goes to waste. Okay, an analogy in here, so that's reminding us, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. O believers, do not invalidate your charities with reminders and hurt. Okay, because your charity might be invalidated completely. How? By reminding them about it, by hurting them. So the word man in here means reminding the recipient of your favor, saying or implying, don't forget what I did for you before. And the word adha means causing emotional pain when you're hurting them. Take it enough, stop it, don't call me again, don't. All of these are adha. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking here about the recipient or their need. Make sure that you don't invalidate the charity, because the charity might be invalidated entirely if you deal with man and other, if you deal with reminder and hurting them as well emotionally. So both actions erase the reward of the charity entirely. And how is He giving the analogy? Look at this simile. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compares such a charity to a smooth rock. When there is a rock covered with dust, and when rain comes, subhanallah, rain is a metaphor for the charity itself. The dust is already swept away and the rock is left barren. So the giver thought they had planted something, but in reality they left nothing, and the rock is already left barren. Because what happened, that is, the rain came and the dust is swept away and the rock is left barren. So subhanallah, sometimes we invalidate our charities by those men and other, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the analogy that you might be losing the whole thing and you might be ending with a barren rock without any deeds. So the giver thought that they had planted something. In reality, they left nothing. And the charity is not social transaction. It's a spiritual one witnessed only by Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing how you deal in that, because this is how you deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not with the person himself or the needy himself. You're dealing with Allah through that man or through that person. whom you're giving sadaqah or a charity. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us with this. So giving with a follow-up reminder of what you gave is among the most common destroyers of a charitable rewards. Make sure that you don't remind them, or because sometimes we help people around us for the sake of sadaqah, and then by the end we say that, look, I remember, do you remember that I gave you that money? Do you remember that I helped you with this? Do you remember that I gave you the whole amount? Like, all of these are removing the whole deed. Okay, so also verse of 265, the examples of sincere charity here. وَمَثَلَ الَّذِينَ ينفقون أموالهم ابتغاء مرضات الله. The example of those, he's giving another analogy for those who are spending their wealth, seeking the pleasure of Allah with firm conviction in their hearts. Subhanallah. So two conditions define sincere charity: pure intention, seeking the pleasure of Allah, not the people's praise at all, and inner certainty, like giving full confidence that Allah will reward. They have this certainty that Allah will be rewarding them. And look at the analogy that he's putting here, subhanallah, with the fertile garden. Like, it's like those people who are spending their wealth, their money, seeking the pleasure of Allah with firm belief and certainty in their hearts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward. They are like a garden on an elevated land, and this land receives the sunlight. You know, subhanallah, when there is a land and it's elevated, it's not on the same level of the normal land. Okay, and when the rain comes, when the heavy rain comes, it's still what the crops will be still in a good growing, because the rain is not smashing and crushing all the roots. Okay, same as the normal land that is in the normal level. So subhanallah, those people who spend their wealth for seeking the pleasure of Allah, they are like a garden on elevated land, and this land receives the sunlight and subhanallah, good drainage and also pure air producing. And when heavy rain hits, subhanallah, hits them, subhanallah, there will be always growing, and there won't be any kind of falling of crops, and it produces also double of its fruits. And if the rain is even light, even if the rain is light, even if there is no rain, is enough, subhanallah, because they don't need a lot. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this analogy, like even in both cases, even if there is a heavy rain, it's okay, they will grow. And it's also when there is light rain, okay, it's also will be growing normally without any issues. So it will be different from the normal land on a normal level, because the land that is on a normal level will be subjected to what? Full damage from the rain. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making this beautiful analogy to remind us that those who spend their wealth, they will never be losing, and they have this fertile garden all the time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Allah sees everything. He sees everything you do. And He sees the charity, He sees the intention and the sincerity behind it as well. And the elevated garden is a believer whose deeds are rooted in taqwa. Okay, when you are a believer who is spending from your wealth for the sake of pleasing Allah, and also you have taqwa, fearing Allah and everything, your land, your garden will be always flourishing under any condition, because your garden is already on staying on an elevated land. It's not built on a normal level of same as the others, normal level of the land same as others. It's completely different, because it's your garden is already staying on an elevated land. So subhanallah, this is the beauty of the analogies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and similes. And also He's saying in verse verse 262, 66, okay, just a second. the garden that burned. Okay, أيود أحدكم أن تكون له جنة من نخيل وأعناب. Would any of you wish to have a garden of palm trees and grapevines with rivers flowing beneath it? Allah presents here a powerful warning through a parable. A man who builds something beautiful then loses it all at the moment he needs it most. And look at this analogy in here. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this analogy for those people who are losing everything in the end. A man owns a lush garden, okay, a palm trees, grapevines, rivers flowing beneath, producing all types of fruits. Then old age, subhanallah, on that time that وَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبْرُ, like he's very old and he needs the fruits of these gardens now, okay, because he doesn't have the energy to work anymore. So this is the most time, this is the time when he is very desperate to take the fruit of these gardens. And because he's weak and his children are young and dependent and they need it, and he needs the garden more than ever. Then suddenly, فَأَصَابَهَا إِعْصَارٌ, a whirlwind containing fire strikes the garden, and everything burns, everything is lost. He has been building this, he has been building good deeds, a lot of good deeds, doing a lot of good deeds, and then he's losing it because it was very fragile. Okay, when any whirlwind hits, it removes everything. Okay, then just a second. So the meaning here, this is representing a person who gave charity, someone who gave a lot of good deeds and then did good deeds, but later he destroyed them through hypocrisy, through reminders, through hurt, okay, showing off, reminding people of their charity or sins that cancel reward. And on the day of judgment, when they need their deeds most, they discover they are gone. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concluding, كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ. Allah clarifies the signs for you so that you may reflect. And look at the beauty of analogies. And here, I think when you come to know the meaning of these analogies, of course, like I need more time to explain them in depth, but they are very beautiful. I'm trying to tell them, to explain them from the surface so that you would come to know, because this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us, and this is the beauty of the Quran. He keeps giving us analogies and similes about every situation so that we would come to understand very well. And this is the way of him facilitating things. But you need to just go through every analogy and know about it. Okay, so let's go for 267, okay, which is give from the best of what you have. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم. O believers, spend from the good things you have earned and from what we bring forth for you from the earth. And the charity must come from lawful, honest wealth, not from what you dislike or wouldn't accept yourself. And Allah commands believer to give from the best, not from the worst. Like when you give any sadaqah, this is how you deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need to give the best of what you have. And from what Allah produces from the earth, crops, agriculture, natural provisions. Okay, what not to give. Don't aim to give the bad or defective items, okay? Don't take that defective thing and give it as sadaqah or to spend it over people, okay? Make sure that you choose something good. So, وَلَسْتُمْ بِأَخِذَيْهِ means you yourselves wouldn't accept it unless you closed your eyes to its defects. So why do you give it to Allah? This is affirming that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that when you spend money, when you try to help people or you give charity, this is as if you are giving to Allah. So he's telling you, don't give me something that is defective. Make sure that you care too much about giving it to me in a good condition. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling that know that Allah is self-sufficient, praiseworthy. Allah does not need your charity at all. The charity is for your own purification. وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. Okay, then 268. Shaitan's promise of versus Allah promise. Look, الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء. Shaitan threatens you with poverty and orders you to immorality.
وَاللَّهُ يَعْدُكُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنْهُ وَفَضْلًا. While Allah promises you forgiveness from Him and bounty. Look at both promises together, subhanAllah. And this verse exposing Shaitan's primary tactic in obstructing charity, the whisper of poverty. How? If you give, you will have less. You need this money. Don't give, don't spend this money on those people, poor people. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough coverage for this month. Make sure that you, and subhanAllah, this is how Shaitan whispers to you so that you would abstain from giving any charity or helping or spending. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that this is going to give you more poverty. And this is a shaitan يعدكم الفقر. This is promise from shaitan that he would be causing you poverty, because once you become stingy like that, this is gonna react with getting more poor, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's providing, and He said that when you give Him more, when you give charity, Allah will be multiplying it. So when you do the opposite way, what will happen? Subhanallah, Allah will give you more poverty, because shaitan is whispering to you not to give, not to spend. That's why you will be caused with poverty. So Shaitan threatens you with poverty if you give, and invites you toward immorality and miserliness, and as the safe alternative. Okay, we find a lot of people like that who keep their money and save their money because they are afraid of the future. They feel danger is coming. They feel that they are not secured enough. Then they protect themselves. They don't have any belief that Allah is the provider and Allah is the sustainer. That's why they all of these are from shaitan, and this is the promise of shaitan, to give them more poverty. Poverty in not only in money, also in their faith, poverty in everything they have, even in their emotions as well. So the promise of Allah, He promises what? وَمَغْفِرَةً وَفَضْلًا. Allah, if you deal with Allah, if you give Allah, Allah is promising you forgiveness, cleansing of sins, and fadl, bounty, blessing as well. And Ibn Kathir is noting that fadl here includes both worldly provision and also reward in the hereafter, both of them. Subhanallah, look at the forgiveness and the fadl, the mercy, the blessings that you will be getting for both this life and the hereafter as well. Then we have verse 269, the gift of wisdom. يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء. Allah grants wisdom to whom He wills. Whoever is given wisdom has been given abundant good. Wisdom, according to scholars, include what? Understanding from Allah, knowledge from Allah, subhanallah. When He gives you the knowledge about things, if you feel confused and there is information vague to you, and subhanallah, you don't understand it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be giving you the wisdom to understand things clearly without reading any book. So that's why He's telling you that يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء. I'm the one who's giving you wisdom. How? When you get connected to Him, He will give you wisdom and the ability to act correctly as well. This is also a part of guidance. When you are being provided with wisdom, you will be able to act under guidance, and you will be guided to the proper decisions ever. It guides a person in belief, decisions, and actions, and it's among the greatest gifts Allah can bestow, to have wisdom. وَمَن يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. And whoever is given wisdom, he has been given abundant good, because he will see the truth. He will come to distinguish things, okay, and he will be completely different from how people would be thinking about everything around. And then verses 270, 271, whatever you spend in charity or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or any vow you make, Allah knows completely. Allah is knowledgeable about all of them, about whatever you spend from charity and any vow you make. Nothing is hidden from Him, but those who do wrong will find. They will have no helpers at all. And if you give it charity openly, it's good. Okay, that like when you give charity openly, like people would see, it's fine. But if you conceal it and give it to the poor, it's better for you. Make sure that you hide it. Okay, it will remove your sins, and Allah is fully aware of what you do. Then verse 272, guidance is from Allah. The Prophet was concerned here about guiding people. Allah reminds him, لَيْسَ عَلَيْكَ هُدَاهُمْ. Allah is telling the Prophet, you're not responsible for guiding them. Guidance belongs only to Allah alone. So the key here, وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِأَنفُسِكُمْ. Whatever good you spend is for yourselves. Everything that you spend is for yourself. And the charity benefits the giver first. You're the one who's going to take the full benefit as a giver when you give charity. So a lot of verses affirming the importance of giving charity, okay, in here.
And also public versus sacred charity. If you give charity openly, it's good. We have just mentioned that. Okay, and give it to the poor, it's better for you. If you conceal it and give it to the poor, it's good for you. So like if you give it charity, we have just mentioned that part. Okay, and also public charity can encourage others to give. Maybe you will be inspiring somebody else to copy you. Okay, it's good, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preferring those who are concealing it and giving it to the poor in a hidden way. Okay, without without reminders, and without hurting them. Okay, and then verse 273, for the poor who are restricted in the path of Allah, these are people who cannot travel for work and dedicate, they do themselves to Allah cause, and their dignity, subhanallah, they have dignity. They don't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like they don't ask people for anything, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preferring those people. Okay, they have dignity. Like, you know, when you find someone who's poor and he doesn't have this begging way or tools, okay, and they have this dignity to not to expose, not to reveal themselves that they are needy, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising them a lot, that we need to help them. Okay, and they deserve more as well. للذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار, they spend their wealth by night and by day, secretly and openly, in all circumstances. They will have their reward with their Lord. No fear will be upon, nor will they grieve. Again, subhanallah, more focus on spending in here. Then we go for verse 275 to 278. This is usury, riba. Prohibition here, complete prohibition of riba. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted trade. Trade is fine, okay, you can trade, but He has prohibited what usury, to have interest over the payment. So the pagans of Mecca argued trade and riba are the same thing. They started to say that it's the same, both produce profit. What's the difference? Then the response of Allah is definitive here. They are not the same at all. Trade involves genuine exchange of value, risk sharing, and you are getting exhausted and you are working hard. This is productive effort. It's completely different from riba. Riba is producing profit from the just because of the time. That's it. And this is exploiting the poor's need, like, because he's needy of money, so you should be giving him the same money, the same amount, but don't ask him for interest. If you ask him for interest, this is exploitation of the borrower's needs, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cursing this all the time. It shouldn't be done this way. And Al-Qurtubi identifies this as a form of oppression embedded in the economic system. Subhanallah, riba is really, when you look at its nature, it's really oppression. Like it's exploiting your need for money, and they are asking for extra. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prohibiting it because of that. So al-bay' versus riba, trade involves mutual benefit, but riba is a guaranteed extraction from those in need. Okay, and it has a big exploitation in it. And whoever receives this warning and stops, their past transactions are forgiven, and their case is with Allah. The door of tawbah and repentance is open, and Allah is merciful to those who turn back. الذين يأكلون الربا, those who consume riba, who eat riba, are compared to one standing like the one beaten by shaitan into confusion. He's like drowsy, dizzy. He's not balanced at all. The one who is under riba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting this analogy for them. He's giving this simile that someone who's consuming riba usually is exactly compared to one who's standing like the one beaten by shaitan into confusion. So shaitan has touched him. He's beaten by shaitan. Like he's not balanced. He's switching, moving, swinging, right? And the imagery is disturbing, indicating a spiritual and psychological disorder caused by this practice. SubhanAllah, this takhabbut, this shaking, this beating, is psychological disorder. You would be finding a lot of people are going through the psychological disorder and disturbance. One of them is usually. Because we live in a world of usury, yeah, everywhere. So that's why you would find all of these psychological disorders are around as well. So, verse 279, declaration of war. The strongest warning in the Quran, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأَذَانٌ بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. But if you don't, then be informed of a war from Allah and His Messenger. Like, subhanAllah, Islamic scholars across all four major madhahib, they have noted that no other sin in the Quran is described as placing the sinner in a state of war with Allah and His Messenger. For this usually, subhanAllah, the gravity of this language is without parallel in the entire Quran. This language, like there is a war if you are in this sin. And the ethics of debt, وَإِن كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ فَنَظَرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ. If the debtor is in difficulty, grant him time until ease comes. Like, this is also ethics, the Islamic economics ethics. Do not stop at prohibiting exploitation. They require also active compassion. If you see someone who wants money, desperate to have money, don't take riba, don't go, like force him to go into usury or riba, but try to give him also, be compassionate with him, and give him time. It's fine until ease comes. SubhanAllah, look at the mercy that we have in this religion. And the creditor must give genuine time to one in difficulty, and better still, to give it as a charity is better for you. SubhanAllah. And look, this وَأَن تَصَدَّقُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, to give this as a charity it's also better for you. Look at how he reached it to that. That's why when we look at usury, people would say, like, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to stop taking money? What's the meaning? Why is He doing this to us? Because He doesn't want you to be exploited. He loves you. He doesn't want you to be exploited. If someone increases on you and wants to take wants you to pay extra because you were needy at that time, this is exploitation, and Allah hates it. He doesn't like it at all, and He's telling you don't go for it, and He's protecting you. Don't even try to go near it. Don't be into that. And because you will be informed of a word from Allah and His Messenger. And also, if subhanAllah, He's also giving you that right that you will be, even like for those people who are lending money, even if the debtor is in difficulty, grant him ease, grant him time until ease. It's fine. And even if you give it to him as a charity, this is much better as well. So look at the mercy we get in here. So then, the day we return to Allah, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, and fear a day when you will be returning to Allah, then every soul will be fully compensated for what it earned, and they will not be wronged. The verse is reported to be among the last revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, making it one of the final divine instructions before the completion of the Quran. It serves as a solemn closing reminder between the riba prohibition and the detailed legal legislation of verse 282. And subhanAllah, three certainties in here. تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, every soul will be returned to Allah. There is no escape. Every soul will be paid in full for exactly what it earned, good and bad, large and small. وَهُمْ لَا يَظْلَمُونَ, they will not be wronged. Not a single deed will be lost or misrecorded. Okay, so this is the verse between riba prohibition and the debt documentation in here. Okay, so we go for verse 282, which is the longest verse. Okay, this is Ayat al Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idha tadayantum bidayn. Oh, those who you believe, okay, when you contract a debt for a specified term, write it down. Okay, He's teaching us, even if you contract a debt between each other, make sure you write it down. And this is, subhanAllah, this is the longest verse in the whole Quran, containing an entire legal framework for financial transactions. And the scholars know the opening address, all you who believe, subhanAllah, linking this economic integrity with the believer's faith identity. Document the transaction. First of all, document the transaction, write it down. Documentation is not a sign of mistrust at all. It's protection for both parties and it removes future disputes. Number two, just use a justice scribe. The scribe must write accurately, writer, and the one who's documented, and not favor either party. Corrupt documentation corrupts justice in here. Number 3, bring witnesses, also if possible, 2 male witnesses or 1 man and 2 women, so that if one forgets, the other reminds. Witnessing is a communal responsibility in here. Then protect the vulnerable party. If the party obligated cannot dictate terms themselves due to weakness, youth, or incapacity, their guardian dictates on their behalf with the justice. Okay, so these are the rules in this verse. And then we go for verse 283. When documentation is impossible, he's giving you also the possibility, if there is no documentation, if you are on a journey and cannot find a scribe, a documenter, or someone who's documenting, then take a security deposit. And Islam's legal framework anticipates here, and deposit, take something from him, okay, as a deposit with you. Islam's legal framework anticipates real-world constraints in traveling situations or emergencies where written documentation is unavailable. So collateral rahn, or deposit, is permitted as a guarantee in here. So also it talks about don't conceal testimony. Whoever conceals it, his heart is sinful. This is remarkable. The sin of false concealment of testimony is located in the heart. It's going to cause a lot of sins, a lot of stains on the heart and blockages in the heart, making it a spiritual failing as much as a legal one. And the study explains that a person who knowingly withholds testimony in a matter of rights has corrupted their inner relationship with truth and with Allah completely, not merely violated a procedural rule. It's like corrupting or destroying the whole relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also it's going to cause him an obstruction on his heart and disconnection from Allah. So verse 284, Allah knows what the hearts conceal. Whether you reveal what is in yourselves or conceal it, Allah will call you to account for it. This verse caused the companions tremendous distress if they are accountable even for passing thoughts. How can anyone be saved? The Prophet and the companions prostrated to Allah in awe. Then came verse 286 as a mercy and relief in here. And subhanAllah, An-Nawawi is explaining that this verse not to control the passing thoughts, which is wiswas, but to deliberate settled intentions that one nurtures in the heart. And the scholars of Sunni tradition agree, a fleeting thought that one does not act upon or do is not accountable. It's the cultivated intention that it is, okay? So we have this verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, whether you reveal what is in yourselves or conceal it, Allah will call you to account for it. You will be held accountable for that. But after that, we got the last verse, which is gonna tell us the editing in it, okay? So then verse 285, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون. The messenger has believed in what was revealed to him from his Lord, and so have the disbelievers. All of them have believed in Allah, His angels, His books, and His messengers. And this verse, subhanAllah, is the communal creed of the Muslim community. It's a declaration made in unison by the Prophet ﷺ and every believer after him. This is encapsulating the 6 pillars of faith in a single sentence, okay, which is belief. Iman billah wa malaikati wa kutubi wa rusuli. These are the pillars of faith. And the verb amana here, like the amana means believed, appears in the past tense. Amana means like this is the past, believed, indicating settled and firm, completed fiction, not ongoing uncertainty, okay? So غفرانك, means غفرانك means your forgiveness, our Lord. After the declaration of belief and obedience comes the acknowledgement of human weakness and the turn toward divine forgiveness. سمعنا وأطعنا. Look, this is the conclusion. سمعنا وأطعنا, we hear and we obey. This is the opposite of what Bani Israel said at the beginning, of what they have argued at the beginning of the surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned a lot of spots in the Quran where there was argument all the time from Bani Israel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concluding on the way we should be responding. سمعنا وأطعنا, we hear and we obey. So this is how we should be defining ourselves as believers, by submission and obedience. لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. We make no distinction between any of his messengers. Muslims affirm all prophets without exception, from Adam to Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, and Muhammad. As a believer, a full believer, complete believer, Muslim, you need to follow these rules. Okay, so then لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden a soul beyond that which it can bear. This is also one of the key verses in here. This single statement coming as direct response to the distress caused by verse 284, the one when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that you will be held accountable for whatever you hide as well. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealing this verse, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. And this is one of the most consoling principles in Islamic theology. The companions who had feared that would be held accountable for every inner thought heard this, and their hearts were relieved by لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, because it got adjusted, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to make it easier on us. And then we need to say, ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. Our Lord do not hold us accountable if we forget or sin. The Prophet also ﷺ reported that Allah responded, I have done so. Okay, so we need to say this, ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. Our Lord, do not burden us as you burden those who before us. Allah responded, I have done so. The previous nations carried heavier legal burdens, and this community was given ease and mercy. وَاعْفُ عَنَّا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا وَارْحَمْنَا أَنْتَ مَوْلَانَا. Pardon us, forgive us, and have mercy upon us. You are our protector. Again, Allah responded, I have done so. 3 divine acceptances, a gift to this ummah, Muslim ummah, at the close of the greatest surah, which is Surah Al Baqarah. So we need to keep saying this. This is how we should be as a believer, as a true Muslim, a true believer, to be in this part. That's why the last 2 verses of Surah Al Baqarah are very distinguished and unique and important. I keep saying them as dua as well, and in every night. Subhanallah, it's as if you have read the full surah, because of this. This is really the summary of the whole surah. This is how we should be. This is how we should be all the time, submissive and always obeying Allah, and subhanallah, accepting anything that, or any of his commands, and be submissive as well, and accepting qadr as well, and believing as well. So we can say this is the whole thing. If we would like to wrap things up, هدى المتقين, Surah Al Baqarah began with guidance for those who are God conscious, those who are conscious of the presence of Allah. And the surah opened with these words, a promise of guidance to those who come with taqwa. And it closes with believers saying what? Look, سمعنا وأطعنا. We hear and we obey. The circle is complete now, and the people described in verse 2 as potentially deserving guidance have, by the end of the surah, become people of verse 285, believing, obeying, and asking forgiveness. When you obey, when you take this book as guidance for you, okay, you will be ending also with being what? Hearing and obeying the commands of Allah. So Huda Muttaqin, it's a guidance promised to the God conscious, and the surah begins with an invitation, and it ends with submission and obedience. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, is ending the surah with mercy, that Allah's assurance that the burden is bearable and forgiveness is very near. And also we have the part of laws and obligations as well. The believing community is shaped through legislation, stories, and theology. This is the beauty of Surah Al Baqarah. When we put them together, this is how it is. This is why it is very beautiful. Okay, look at the whole image now. Subhanallah, the whole Quran, the whole surah. When you begin with it, you will take guidance, and also you need to avoid the arguments that were followed by Bani Israel, and you need to take Ibrahim alayhi salam as a model for obeying the commands, and also follow the repentance of Adam alayhi salam when he repented many times, because so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive him for his sins. We need also to keep this, to follow this model of Adam alayhi salam of repenting all the time. over our sins and asking for the forgiveness of Allah all the time. And also we shouldn't be arguing about any command from Allah. Why is Allah doing this? Why did He prohibit you usually? Why did He do this? Subhanallah, look at this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you all of these laws and rules in the surah, along with the stories of arguments of Bani Israel, along with the submission of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and along with the story of Adam alayhi salam when he asked for forgiveness. All of these together, put them together, that you shouldn't be what? You shouldn't be arguing. If Allah sends commands over you, no need to argue. Just say what سمعنا وأطعنا. We hear and we obey. Okay, so subhanallah, the beauty of the surah, it's not this scattered at all. It's very connected. Every dot is connected to the other. But we need, of course, more depth in the surah, inshallah. Later on, I might be giving, inshallah, later on depth on it. I had to squeeze it because it's 4 sessions only. That's why I'm in rush to cover it. But inshallah, maybe in the future, we're gonna try to go hit deeper into it. As I told you, make sure that you are following the group, because we might do many sessions of these afterwards, okay, so that you would be reminded quickly and easily.